What are people's general takes on contemporary art? How you feel about contemporary art, man? What's the vibe out here? When I grew up, okay, when I was growing up, I used to hate on a lot of modern art. I used to go to museums and I used to be like, dude, what is this? What is this white canvas? Imagine little old me, right? The little old me being like, wow, what the hell is this? White canvas, red dot. And then there'd be like some people who would kind of come by and they would say stuff like, wow, dude, this is really speaking to me.
The composition is so amazing, the symbolism of capitalism, and the fortification here of the red on the white, it's incredible, right?
It's a Japan flag. Yeah, right. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's like a red dot, I guess, right? And I used to think it was super silly, kind of super goofy. It didn't make sense. I felt like there was no effort, right? The answer that I would always say is, why does this belong here? I could have done this myself, right? I'm sure some of you maybe have felt that way too about modern art. As I got older as an artist, and in particular, especially with the advent of AI, right? The presence of AI and AI art, and we don't like that shit. L's in the chat for AI art. It made me realize something about the modern art space. Here's the main thing. A lot of artists fear that AI will replace them. Why? Because they make a whole lot of pretty pictures, right? Sometimes they might create some rendered stuff that's a little bit better than what the average artist might make. And sure, we can roast them for the hands, we can roast them for the weird eyes or just kind of the weird merging of things. But there will come a point, realistically speaking, there will come a point where AI will be able to generate images that will look just as visually, quote unquote, visually / technically as good as what other people might make. And that causes fear because one, artists feel like they're being exploited from their work. And then now two, they feel like they're being pushed out by society. And then three, the large majority of society, and guys, I hate to say this, okay, but we kind of are in a little bit of a bubble here as artists. We don't like AI, but there are a good number of people in the world who just don't care. They don't care if something is made by AI or if it's made by artists, because to them and what they see on the internet, if it looks good, that's what matters. It's kind of an unfortunate thing, right? And so it kind of had me thinking a little bit about, well, what can we do as artists? What can we actually possibly do? And I came to the realization that what we need to do is not focus necessarily on how technically good our illustrations are. And here's the problem, okay? You might be wondering, Kaycem, well, what do you mean technically good? Shouldn't that be the main goal of our art? Isn't that why I study? Isn't that why I binge watch tutorial videos on YouTube? Isn't that why I watch your channel so that I can be technically better? Well, I think yes, there is some value and aspect of our growth as an artist to level up, right? To get better technically, to be able to create the things that we want to create. But at the same time, I do think that this has become a byproduct of just how the world has become. The internet, and maybe in particular social media, have kind of promoted this idea that very pretty pictures, very specific types of drawings, right? All of these things are gonna be what gets pushed in the algorithm. It's what gets exposure. It's what gets likes and reshares and all of that stuff. And more numbers means better artist, right? It's why a lot of us are afraid to post stuff sometimes, because we feel like we can only post our best work, right? Our best quote unquote technical work. A lot of the internet has basically created this image and this value of art being more technically valued right now in society than before. And so what is the response to that? We binge, we keep watching tutorials, we compare our stuff to other artists, and we say, damn, this is not as good as that other artist. I need to get better, because if I get better, wow, look at the likes I get, look at the follows I get, right? And so we're stuck in a loop. And again, this is not to say that learning is bad. I teach art out here on the internet. I love to learn, I love to teach. But I think a lot of us artists have lost sight of why we create. A lot of us artists feel like we can't even create the stuff that we want to create, whether that be characters, a new manga, a game, a story, whatever have you, because we're afraid that we're not good enough, right? And so going back to what I was saying, if the answer here is not to be technically better as artists, and that's how we battle and combat AI. At least there's many other ways to battle AI, like from the legal standing and from from making sure that companies don't exploit us. Like there's all that stuff, but I'm talking about us, the everyday artists, and what we can do. I think what we have to do, guys, is to take a lesson, a playbook here of sorts, back to what contemporary art was doing. And I had to look at this for a second and I said, wait a minute, these guys and girls, they did something that I think a lot of us could actually learn from. They managed to create art out of effectively something that we see as nothing, out of effectively things that we think we could do ourselves, and they gave it meaning. Now, I know some of you might talk about money laundering and the whole weird underpinnings of the art business and the art selling space. We're not going to get into that because irrespective of that, there are some people genuinely who are like, oh yeah, banana on a wall. That's kind of funny. That's kind of interesting. There is something that they did there. And the lesson to be had there is that they managed to make something that in itself really is not that technically impressive, but they gave it context. They gave it value, right? I actually recently saw a video about Banksy and how Banksy did an experiment where he had an old guy sell his original artworks, right? His original designs that were worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And he sold them on the street of London, I believe. And this old man was selling these original Banksy works for $30 a piece or $60, whatever have you. And nobody wanted to buy them because people would walk by and they would say, yeah, this looks like trash, bro. This is just like a random smiley face on a canvas. This is just a painting of a guy. This is not the real deal. But because it had the name of Banksy on it afterwards, the people who did buy those $60 paintings ended up selling them for hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is, again, a lesson in context, right? So what does that mean for us? We all have to be Banksy out here? No, that's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is that when we as artists create and share work now moving forward, I think the best way for us, and this is going to be a hard sell, right? The best way for us to actually beat AI and to shift the narrative of the larger community, not artists, but outside of us artists, is we need to be able to be comfortable enough to share ourselves and to share our humanity with what we create, right? It's no longer about creating a pretty picture of some anime waifu or some buff dude or whatever. You can still do that, but I think what you need to also do is give the context, right? Why is it important to you that you did this? Sometimes we do it for fun, I get it. But sometimes when we're creating a story, when we're creating a manga or whatever have you as your passion, right? We have to be able to showcase that and be comfortable enough to do that. Because it is in those moments that we show our humanity that people will then come to realize that, wait a minute, I don't care if an AI image looks pretty good because it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't have any attachment or value to me like someone else would, like a human would when they create and you understand why they created. You understand the struggle that they put in. So yes, AI, they got all that pretty stuff, but I feel like we as artists, we need to shift away from this mindset of grinding all the time and trying to get technically better and trying to hit this unrealistic expectations. And let's just create. Let's create today. Right? I'm not saying be a modern artist and put red dots on a white canvas, but I do think there is something there to be learned from. And there you go. That is my TED Talk. So make sure to like this, like and subscribe, and I hope this was somewhat helpful to hear.